I'm Derek Joyce, and I'm here with Paul Onwarda, and this is I'm Not the Expert But. This is a podcast where we'll discuss everything from the most complex ideas that we know nothing about to the simplest ideas that we probably know nothing about either. So put the kettle on, get comfy, and join us.
This is your show.
I'm just fucking going. Okay, give me 2 seconds.
Right.
Yep, that's perfect. Okay, so they say cold openings are the best.
Who says that?
I've seen it in loads of media shit, but
I like it.
This is cold opening-ish because I haven't a fucking clue how to open this.
Okay.
I follow one of these Twitter accounts that just does fascinating things or historical things.
Okay.
And there's one of them is African history.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's actually Black History Month in America, isn't it? At the moment.
Yeah, I think it is. Who was it? Fucking Morgan Freeman. He said he's famously come out against Black History Month.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. It should be just History Month.
He said it shouldn't be History Month. It should just be Black History.
Right,
There
shouldn't be a month.
Yeah.
It should be all the time.
Yeah. That whole thing. But yeah, so I completely agree with that. I was reading this African history thread that they put up, and it was about racism. And racism is a white European construct that the first people of that went to the US, that they taught up. There's always been discrimination, and there's always been discrimination on colour and religion and all that kind of thing.
Of course, yeah.
But racism was a construct that justified
slavery
and the minimizing of other races, races that were different to yours,
for economic reasons, yeah, and apartheid
for economic and social reasons,
yeah. And apartheid in South Africa was exactly the same.
Yeah,
it was to keep a low paid or free workforce.
Yeah, that's
basically
essentially
what it's for,
Long story short, I was watching all that, and through the thread, they mentioned Harriet Tubman. And Harriet Tubman, I recognised the name from my late teens, early 20s. It was the first time I heard about it.
No, I hadn't. The first time I heard about it was when you mentioned it to me.
I
did hear of the Underground Railroad.
I hadn't thought of it in years, and that's the other thing I was going to say. The Underground Railroad, and I'm not saying this for your benefit or for the benefit of anybody listening to this, but when I first heard the Underground Railroad, I was thinking, not that, Jesus, there was a railroad in America, because we all know there's a huge network of railroads in America. But they had underground railroads. And it didn't make sense. But there's absolutely no underground or railroad
involved in the Underground Railroad. Yeah.
Except for when they carriage or they container jumped on trains going.
Of course,
all that kind of thing.
And it's interesting because when you said it to me and I said, there was an Underground Railroad during the war, during World War II. That's what I thought you were talking about. And then I Googled it and I couldn't find any reference to an Underground Railroad during World War II. So that's a misconception that I had. Like it was, the kind of French resistance and stuff helping Jews to escape. And I'm sure I have heard that reference as the Underground Railroad during World War II. But when I looked for it, I couldn't find any reference to it. So that was weird.
I've never heard the Underground Railroad being associated with helping Jews escape the Nazis in World War II.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's what I always thought it was. I don't know why. I don't know where I picked that misconception up. But it's a misconception that has been misconstrued.
Yeah. I don't know why they never did the next iteration of the term Underground Railroad for Jews that were escaping the Nazis during World War II. Yeah. I don't know why they didn't latch onto that from history and go
and call it that.
And not call it that. Not call it that, but call it something similar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Yeah, I don't know, but the World War II is a whole different story.
Yeah.
Harriet Tubman, she was an Underground Railroad conductor,
Right.
which I still thought, which is part of the reason I thought, fucking Underground Railroad? That's insane. And where the fuck is it now? She was just the term was just conductor. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Harriet Tubman was born Araminta Ross in Dorchester County in Maryland in the early 1820s. Right, there's no set date when her birthday was exactly, but they figure it was the early 1820s.
Now, I'm not great on American geography, but Maryland's not in the south, is it?
Maryland.
Maryland.
Yeah, whatever. I'm going to correct you forever on that until you get it right.
One of our regular listeners is from Maryland, whatever the hell. I'm going to ask him how it's pronounced.
Okay, because I was...
How are you, Kevin?
When I was in South Africa, we went on one of the garden tours where they bring it out and around. We got oysters and stout, and it wasn't Guinness, it was stout.
Right, okay.
And
was it as creamy as Guinness, or was it like the bottled stout that you get?
All I remember from it is there were oysters. So
I wouldn't be a fan. I've had them once.
No, and I'm not saying it's because they were gorgeous, but I mean, that's another discussion. They weren't great at all. In my estimation. But there was a guy there on the tour and he was from Maryland. And one of the people in my group called it Maryland, and he just gently corrected. So maybe it's just him and his social circle that call it Maryland, but apparently it's Maryland.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
Possibly. Anyway, Harriet Tubman was born to Harriet Green and Benjamin Ross. She was born into slavery because both her parents were slaves. And the plantation they worked on, the Harriet, the mother, worked in the house, in the big house, as they used to call it, because on the plantation, you can see that iconic big wooden house building in your head.
Yeah.
The big house.
Yeah.
And Benjamin was a lumber. He worked with wood outside. Okay?
Yep.
Minty, Araminta, her ma called her Minty.
Yeah.
Because they just had the best nicknames. Her ma called her Minty, had 8 brothers and sisters. And as it was with slave families of the day, and even though the parents tried to keep them all together in one family unit,
they were sold off.
And they were just kind of pulled apart this way and that way.
It's fucking disgusting, though.
It is. It's fucking disgraceful, and I hate
like animals, treated like fucking animals.
Yeah. Treated like fucking animals by people who are no better than animals. Actually, animals are better. Yeah.
Animals don't do that to their own.
No, they don't. When Minty, this is brutal. When Minty was 5 years old, she was rented out, and that struck a fucking note with me. She was rented out as a nursemaid. She's 5 years old, and she's given care of and you can't say she's given care of an infant, because she is a fucking infant.
Yeah.
She's given care of a baby at 5 years old. And when the baby in her charge, however much control and however much nurturing she could give the baby and how much care she could give the baby, when the baby cried, Minty was beaten.
She was whipped, yeah.
She was fucking battered. She was whipped. And it left her with lifelong psychological, emotional, and physical scars. That's it's fucking horrendous. And I felt like turning off at that point.
Yeah, no, there was another story that I came across, and I don't know whether you came across it in your research, that she was sent on an errand to a...
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
you have that, do you? Okay.
That's, I don't want to call it like serendipity, the way it's something unfortunate leads to something better.
Yeah, I think I know what you're on about.
But I don't want to call it that because it's fucking brutal. But that's part of the reason that her life changed course and led her towards this Underground Railroad thing. All right? So that's just...
we'll get to it, though. We'll get to it.
Like, she's 5 now, and that was her early 20s.
Oh, okay. I didn't realise it was that. Okay. Right,
yes, okay. So she was only 5.
Right, okay.
And maybe she was a teenager. But that's a few years ahead.
Okay.
So at 5, she got the shit beaten out of her because white fuckers.
Yes, exactly.
That's all the explanation I have.
Yeah.
At 7, she was rented out to a planter to set muskrat traps, because this is the time all the frontiersmen, that whole revenant thing where they were looking for pelts and shit like that.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a heavy part of something else we're going to do in a couple of
Very
weeks.
soon, yeah.
Which we're not going to talk about here.
No.
And she was sent out to set muskrat traps. She was quoted as saying she preferred the physical outdoor work of laying these traps rather than being in the house.
In the house doing.
No matter what the weather was.
Right, okay.
And that can only be because when she was out and she was laying these traps,
battered.
she was less likely to be fucking battered or blindsided by some
fat white bastard.
C word, I don't know what to call it there. Some white racist bastard. When she was 12, and this is what you were talking about, and there's a few versions to this story, so I'm going to kind of tell you a couple of them.
Right.
When she was 12, the overseer of a store, so the clerk or whatever, the
shopkeeper.
Owner of the store, shopkeep, she spotted this story is she spotted this overseer who was going to throw a 2-pound weight at some other black slave.
Yeah.
And she pushed him out of the way and she took the blow and it struck her in the head. Okay? So there's conflicting stories.
That was the one I heard this morning.
So I read that, and I also read that she was just blindsided. This bastard threw this 2-pound weight at another black slave. Missed and hit her.
Yeah.
Bottom line, whichever story is correct,
she was
hit, right? She was hit and she was knocked out. She was quoted as saying, "The weight broke my skull. They carried me to the house all bleeding and fainting. I had no bed, nowhere to lie, so they laid me down on a seat of a loom, and I stayed there all that day and all the next day." Other than the attention she would have been given by the likes of her mother and any of the other slaves, that would have...
She got no medical attention.
Yeah, there'd have been nothing, no care would have been given to her.
Yeah. And you would think they would have, not out of goodness or anything, just fucking protecting their investment. You think the health of the slave would have been something they would have looked after, I suppose. But then again, they could probably get one cheaper than what it would cost to get medical aid. So
that probably would have been the thought process.
She's
ill. She needs care. Fuck her. If she dies, we'll just get a new one. You know, that must have come into it. Yeah.
Sickening.
As a result of this guy throwing a 2-pound weight and hitting her with it, she was left with sleeping spells.
Yeah.
Which we now know as narcolepsy.
Narcolepsy, yeah.
Yeah, and it would stay with her forever. This was her lot in life forever.
Yeah. Now, I did see a thing this morning that apparently, if I'm preempting you, let me know the dream she had. You want a dream?
Again, that's way down the line.
Yeah, okay.
But
I am preempting.
When we get there, feel free to let loose. Okay. I found no information whatsoever of the overseer ever having to pay a penalty financially or legally or
no, of course he didn't,
because she was black. So, but I mean, even to the slave owner, her slave owner,
maybe,
having to pay a penalty because you've damaged some of my property, because essentially that's what she was considered.
Oh yeah,
that's my property. It's like breaking a window. You broke it, you pay for it, and she was broken. She got schooled out of it with this 2-pound weight, and I never found any information. But it was par for the course. It's disgusting. Yeah.
Vile. Absolutely fucking vile. I'm actually not really comfortable talking about this subject at all, but we'll go on.
Yeah. You see, when I said when I read or I saw that when she was 5, if the child in her care cried, she was beaten. I felt like turning off. But then this thing goes off in the back of my head that says, this shit happened, and I shouldn't afford myself the luxury of switching it off and just looking the other way.
It's still happening in some countries.
Yeah, but switching it off and looking the other way.
Oh yeah, no,
just
don't get me wrong.
putting it out.
Like when I say I'm not comfortable talking about this, I'm not supposed to be comfortable talking about this. You know,
not. Yeah.
It just feels a bit, us being white guys talking about this as well.
Yeah.
It's a bit, kind of hypocritical in a way.
Hypocritical.
Well, maybe not hypocritical is the right word, but we'll never understand what it's like.
No, and I'll never pretend to understand what it's like. But I feel very comfortable talking about racism.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm not racist and I hate all those racist fuckers.
Yep, agreed. 100% agreed.
From that day, from her day in the 1820s.
Right up to now.
Into the 20th century. Right to now. Hate them all. Can't stand them. And I've no time for them. So I've no problem talking about them.
Mm.
As a result of her injury and her sleep spells, narcolepsy, her owner tried to sell her because she was no good. She was of no use to him anymore.
Yeah, and nobody wanted her.
Nobody wanted her because nobody wanted a slave who fell asleep often and without much warning. What use is she to me? I don't want her. Her owner couldn't sell her, so he put her to work with her father.
And he taught her lumber, didn't he?
As a result of her working lumber with her dad, she was brought into contact with all these sailors that would deliver wood take lumber back.
And they were free black sailors, weren't they?
And they were freed black sailors.
Yeah.
And they had a code that they spoke in and they communicated. And she learned of the routes that would be the Underground Railroad.
That would become the Underground Railroad.
They'd speak in whispers or they'd speak in code or whistles or sign language or whatever you want to call it. Or
that kind of pigeon as well, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but I'm getting at the on the railroad in America now, and this is a documentary I saw years ago, and I'm sure it's still working. Homeless people that travel the trains,
vagrants, yeah.
Graffiti places where you can get on trains, where there's not the warden who's going to check and fuck people off the train, who's less likely that they will at that point. So other homeless people know they can jump on here and have a minimized risk of being caught.
Right, okay.
And there's also signs drawn or scribbled on walls close to houses that feed or
homeless people.
Feed or house homeless people overnight. Or something like that. It was years ago that I saw this, but that's what made me think. That's what I thought of when I thought about her being exposed to these guys with secret communication.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So there would have been some sort of iconography that they kind of used to communicate. This is
and even to bring that into a kind of a modern setting as well. I remember when internet was fairly, when Wi-Fi was fairly new. And the kind of skateboarder dudes used to leave chalk marks around where there was free Wi-Fi spots. So they could gather on the steps outside McDonald's or wherever and use the McDonald's Wi-Fi. But it's the same kind of thing,
But it is, yeah. So it made me think of that. So there was probably all this iconography and these whispers that had circulated among these guys that used to help escaped slaves get to the north, up towards Canada. Which we will get into later.
I think it was the northern states initially, wasn't it? And then Canada.
Well, I mean, look at the Civil War. It was the northern states where
anti-slavery. Not anti-slavery, but they were willing to end slavery.
A lot freer.
Abolitionist.
A lot freer than the southern states were.
Yeah.
And if you think of the Civil War, that's what they pretty much fought over.
Yeah.
In 1840, the slaver who owned Harriet's family died. His will set Harriet's father free, along with the rest of the family.
Oh, so they were freed?
But,
yeah, I remember.
As it is with most of the white guys that made treaties in the US around those times, the new owner refused to honour him and only freed Benjamin, the dad, leaving Harriet, the mother, and Minty and her brothers and sisters that weren't sold off to other fucking plantations, still slaves. Around 1844, Harriet married John Tubman.
That was the bit that kind of confused me when I was reading up on this. Were slaves allowed to marry? Would that have been done in secret, you think?
I don't think it would have been done in secret because I think slave owners would have come to the conclusion that if we allow them to marry and they procreate, they're going to have kids that
More
are
slaves.
tacitly our property too.
Yeah, true. Very true.
You know?
Well, I mean...
That's just my idea. That might be completely wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is documented evidence of slave owners using female slaves as broodmares. Basically getting them pregnant repeatedly to produce more slaves for them.
I don't even know if it was that. There is documentation of white male slave owners having affairs with their black slaves.
Well, you say having affairs,
females.
raping them there. Raping them is the
raping them. But I mean, going in there and having kids with them. And then having nothing to do with the kids.
No, the kids are slaves.
It's not that they had more slaves because she's having kids. They were like, it's very really derogatory term. Is it mulatto?
Yeah.
It's
mixed race.
It's a mixed race kid. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But mixed race would have been so much more frowned upon.
Oh yeah.
So if I go over and get her pregnant and get her pregnant and get that one.
And if anyone knows, I lose my social status.
And then they have kids, then I have more slaves.
Yeah,
I don't think was the thought behind it. I think it was a lot more physical than that.
Yeah, it was just
getting your end off. That was it.
Yeah, dirty rape as well. But I'm sure there was an economic.
I don't think so. I really don't think so because those slaves of a mixed race would have had. It's not that slaves had any kind of social standing at all. It's so much worse if they've got a mixed race kid. A mixed race slave, because who's the father and who's the mother? That's the first place it comes from. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's worse for the mixed race slave than it is for the.
I think it would have been. I think it would have been. They wouldn't have been entitled to anything. They wouldn't have been black. They wouldn't have been white. They wouldn't have been considered black.
They would have been classed as black. They would have been classed as black. They would have been slaves.
100%.
They would have been slaves.
100%. They had no entitlements just because they had a white parent.
No, they were black. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Just off the top of my head, I wouldn't say that would have ever been an idea. Because, I mean, if it had been an idea and you can increase your portfolio of slaves. Yeah, I have. Yeah,
there's a guy doing that in Roots. He's getting her pregnant every time she has a baby. More slaves. You don't see that? That's a well-known thing that they were doing there. Yeah, Jesus.
But okay.
Running the whole plantation after fucking offspring, like.
Yeah, I don't know. Still, white fuckers.
Right,
yeah, so I could be very wrong. Scumbags. I just think that the mixed race.
Yeah, but see, people didn't see mixed race back then. It was just black. There were different variations of black.
Yeah, there's that as well. I'm thinking about it with a 20th century, 21st century mind.
Black was black there. That was it, you know what I mean? Scumbags.
Yeah, dirtbags. Hate them all.
Yeah.
So around 1844, excuse me, Harriet married John Tubman. And apparently it wasn't a good marriage for whatever reason.
Okay.
It's not to say that they didn't have kids. I don't know if they did. But that it wasn't a good marriage. So maybe she wasn't a good wife. Maybe he wasn't a good husband in some way, shape, or form.
You don't know why, but it wasn't a good marriage.
Yeah, it wasn't considered a good marriage.
That's fine.
And along with the knowledge that two of her brothers, Ben and Henry, were to be sold, it served as a catalyst for Minty, now Harriet, because she took her mother's name when she got married, to run away. And this is the thing that's in your head about her having the dream.
Yeah, which I think is BS, to be honest with you, but we'll see.
Go for it. What was it? What did you...
Well, what I discovered was that her and her brothers tried to escape and they got lost and they returned back to the slave owner. And then she had a dream where she was flying and she seen the path to freedom in the dream and off she went.
Yeah,
which sounds a bit fanciful. But it also said that she used the North Star.
Which is a lot more reasonable.
Yeah, that's a lot more reasonable. She's trying to go north. I mean, that's a lot more reasonable. Yeah.
It'd be a lot more reasonable that that's what she did than the fanciful idea of she had a dream. And maybe she did have a dream. She fell asleep often enough.
True enough.
So
yeah, but I mean,
maybe she did have a dream.
Yeah, but how would she see the route to her escape in the dream? Like, it seems a bit fanciful. It's a
I've
nice
never
story,
had to have one of those dreams, so I don't know.
Mm.
But maybe she did.
Maybe she knew it somewhere in her subconscious and it came out in the dream. Possibly.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like it's kind of a feasible thing, but
No.
you know,
It's romantic.
people's interpretation of the subconscious and your dreams and all that kind of thing is exactly that. It's open to interpretation.
There might be a podcast on that, though.
Yeah. So if somebody gets a meaning out of something, then yeah, great.
Have at it. Yeah, I'm not going to judge.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. But so she set out then.
So she set out to go north.
Yeah.
I do believe that they did get lost and they did turn around and go back.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Didn't.
Yeah,
it's not that they got lost, because then, I mean, how do you turn around and go back if you're lost? It's easier to retrace your steps, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that they got lost, and I read another version where they got lost and the two boys went back, but she didn't.
Okay.
She just went on forward. So maybe it's just an amalgamation of loads of different.
Yeah, I mean, bearing in mind, I mean, a lot of this wouldn't have been documented history as well. So, be word of mouth stuff. And
yeah, documented history would have
it was written by the victors anyway.
Well, that's it, isn't it? But documented history would have been heavily quotation marked, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, I don't know. But anyway, the Underground Railroad was a secret network of safe houses, boat captains, and wagon train drivers willing to harbour and give safe passage to fugitive or escaped slaves.
Yeah.
As you said earlier on, it's as they headed north.
Yeah. Now, did she establish the Underground Railroad herself? No, it already existed.
Well, when she went to work as a lumberer with her dad, she came in contact with all these freed slaves that were coming up on the ships.
Right. So the free sailors were basically fugitive slaves, were they?
Well, they were freed, but it's like you being a slave and me being free, and we cross paths.
Yeah. But like when you say they're freed, were they freed by their owners or did they escape? That's
maybe they were indentured. I don't know. Indentured where you work.
It's not chattel slavery.
For me, for a certain amount of time, and after that, you get your freedom.
Yeah.
That bullshit, which I don't really think was a great bargain or a great deal for anyone.
And I don't think they ever got their freedom. Well, most of them, because they would always come up with some excuse for, well, you broke that, so that's another 2 years you have to do for me, or
Yeah.
Or you missed a day there. So that's another year you have to do,
Or something.
There was always something like, yeah. Right, you're getting free labour. You're not going to let it go there, are you?
Yeah.
Just because
As you said, they went, they got lost, and they came back. Or boys came back and she went on. But on September 17th, 1849, Harriet, Ben and Henry escaped the Maryland plantation under the cover of darkness. Again, we said there are conflicting stories, but either way, she got free. They didn't.
Right. So
okay.
So either she went on, or in the second attempt she went alone. Did she?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Or whatever. And I also read that in the second attempt she went alone. The boys didn't go.
Right. Okay.
So I don't know.
Right. And she found her way then to Connecticut, was it?
Well, with the help of the railroad, the Underground Railroad, Harriet travelled nearly 100 miles north to Pennsylvania.
Right.
And freedom. That's where, that's the moment where Andy Dufresne crawls along a tunnel of shit, and at the end of it, he's free. So, Pennsylvania, she was free.
Cool.
Okay? You know the Quakers? Quakers?
Yeah.
The Quaker organization was considered the first organized group to actively help escaped enslaved people.
That's interesting.
Isn't that deadly?
It is in a way, but it's also
religion useful for something.
Yeah, but I would have thought they would have been rampant slavers.
Why?
Well, it was that kind of religious fervour that allowed slavery to happen in the first place.
Yeah.
These were the devil's people and that crap that used to be spewed,
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just down to humanity.
Yeah.
It's down to the person. What's your interpretation of them?
Yeah.
Of them over there. Are we all equals, or are you better than them? And
no, I get you.
You know that.
Yeah, no, yeah, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying. Like
So,
Quakers
yeah,
were,
no, I see your point.
they were an extreme white Protestant European sect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you would have expected them to be heavily into the old slaving, but no, fair play.
Well, apparently George Washington complained in 1786 that Quakers had attempted to liberate one of his enslaved workers. Maybe the Quakers...
See, that was the mad thing. Like, George Washington was so anti-slavery, and he's heading up as an anti-slavery icon and all that. He's a fucking slaver himself.
What was it you said? History is written by the winners?
History's written by the victors.
Because who was the guy killed by John Wilkes Booth?
Lincoln. Yeah. Wasn't he a slave owner too?
And because he's in history, he's the guy who freed slaves.
Yeah, the guy who passed the Abolition Act.
Apparently freed slaves. And it's true, he did sign that document or whatever it was, or pass that law or legislation or whatever it was. But in special circumstances, and lots of his friends, we'll call them, in heavy quotation marks,
had slaves under those special
were still
circumstances.
able to keep their slaves.
Right.
So, history's written by the winners. Go and fucking look it up.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Your leaders aren't as great as they fucking appear.
Yeah.
So anyway, there we go, getting all political.
I know, we swore we wouldn't do politics there. Although I tell you, with things going on in the world at the moment, it's very difficult to stay non-political, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, it is. In the early 1800s, a Quaker abolitionist, Isaac Hopper, set up a network in Philadelphia that helped enslaved people on the run. Now, this is a part of it that I had seen a bit of in the video I was watching and said, I'm not going to go there. And then when I did read a paragraph, just on I'll see what I'm not going to include and just read it, I just went, fuck, I have to include that.
See, you are a terrible editor now.
Yeah. I'm actually a great editor.
No, you just include everything.
Yeah.
No, go on.
The African Methodist Episcopal Church is a mouthy name.
Yeah.
The African Methodist Episcopal Church, established in 1816, was another proactive religious group helping fugitive slaves. There's a fucking another one. So they weren't all the fucking same.
That was an African church, though.
Yeah, you yawn there, buddy. Do you want me to get you cocoa? Okay.
Narcolepsy.
Right, okay. Somebody hit him with it.
My apologies.
Okay. In 1793, the Fugitive Slave Act made capturing slaves a lucrative business. And this was the Deep South.
Yeah.
This is what I was saying I'm not going to go into. But I can't not talk about it. I can't not acknowledge it. Okay?
Yeah, it was like bounty hunting, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. In New York, there were gangs that snatched black children mainly off the streets, took them to a boat, and they were sold off into slavery. Even if they weren't fucking slaves. There's a black kid. Get him.
Yeah.
And they grabbed them.
Fuck me.
Yeah. Isn't that fucking disgusting?
Yeah.
In turn, vigilance groups set up by mainly black but supported by some whites were created to protect escaped enslaved people from
vigilante groups, was it?
Vigilance groups.
Oh, hell yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, but vigilance groups. They watched. They were vigilant. They observed. They
bet the shit out of the gangs trying to grab
interfered.
Kids.
I'm sure it was in a very humanitarian way.
Yeah, sure it was, yeah.
Okay, yeah. To protect enslaved people from bounty hunters. It was set up in New York in 1835 and in Philadelphia in 1838. So I'm sure it happened everywhere, but like these bounty hunters, I'm sure popped up everywhere and did this everywhere.
Oh, of course, yeah. There's fucking few bobbing.
The most notable vigilance groups were in New York and Philadelphia. Oh. That kind of crack.
Yeah.
The first mention, actually this was interesting. The first mention of an underground railroad was by the owner, inverted commas, of a guy called Tice Davids. And he blamed an underground railroad for helping his slave to freedom. So it was a phrase coined by a white guy.
Yeah, and he probably thought it literally was underground tunnels with fucking mine carts or whatever.
Hope he did. Hope he did, you fucking
moron.
Racist bastard. Hope you're born in hell. Hope you're burning in the hell I just started hoping existed.
Yeah, no, just now, yeah. Yeah.
In 1839, a Washington newspaper reported an escaped enslaved man named Jim, no second name, revealed under torture his plan to go north following the Underground Railroad to Boston.
Right.
So they fucking tortured him to find out what he was up to.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that fucking great? And I know there's a lot of effing and blinding out of me in this episode, but it's very hard not to.
It's fucking rage inducing, Dale. I'm trying to stay quiet because it's just stomach churning.
By the 1840s, the term Underground Railroad was part of the vernacular of the day. So this white guy coined this magnificent phrase.
Yeah, and it became
became history. Yeah. Most escapees made their way to freedom in Canada because of the 1793 Fugitive Slave Act, which was strengthened in favour of slave owners in 1850.
Right, so they were allowed to be hunted basically anywhere in the States.
More right to hunt your property and get it back. Even if someone suspected of slavery was caught, let's call it up country, towards the north. They were brought toward before legislates and fucking officers and all that kind of thing. They'd find out who they were and return them to their owners. And after that, what was done with them was the business of their inverted commas owner.
Yeah, they'd be battered
or murdered.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, it's fucking cold as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not warm. I have 2 jackets on me today. It's fucking bullshit. Yeah, sit there with your fucking hood on, man. Yeah, anyway, as a result of the strengthening in favour of slave owners in 1850, there were harsher penalties, and it even led to some former slaves being recaptured because there would have been a financial reward legislated for as well in the strengthening of those laws.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah, so it wasn't just law enforcement, fucking recapturing them or whatever. There was literally roving gangs of bounty hunters.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I was telling you about the fucking vigilante mobs, not the ones protecting the escaped slaves, but the ones snatching
the mobs just
kids.
Fucking grabbing any black person. Though, but these were like specific bounties that were put on specific slaves, like fucking
posses.
Mad shit. Yeah, mad shit.
Fucking posses.
And I'll tell you, all this chat then, I'm actually going to go home and watch Roots. I have it on DVD. Haven't watched it in donkey's years.
No, me either.
I'm going to go home and watch it. They remade that, didn't they, a couple of years ago?
I don't know.
Sure they did, yeah. I don't think we watched it. Or we watched the first episode maybe, but it wasn't as good.
I don't know.
Can't remember. I'm going to go home and watch the original, though. It's a fantastic series. And they've remade The Colour Purple as well.
I liked the original.
I've no interest in seeing the new one. I think it's a musical too, I think.
Oh, but then look, I'm right out if it's musical. I'm done.
Yeah, I don't watch musicals at all.
The states of the Deep South were tough originally, but now the northern states weren't safe either. So it had been expanded. Yeah, it had gotten worse, and that's all you need to know.
Mm.
Canada offered black people equal opportunity.
Okay.
They could live where they wanted. They could serve on juries. They could run for public office. The sky was the fucking limit.
Yeah.
They could do.
They were just people. They were just people.
Yeah. Well, they are just people.
I know, yeah.
They're all just people. It's white people that have the problem.
Yeah. They were just citizens, yeah.
Any efforts at any extradition largely failed. So any white slave
owner trying to get
plantation owners got in touch with Canada and said, here, he belongs to me, give me him back.
They
said,
fuck you,
buddy.
Fuck you, he belongs to nobody. He's a person.
Which I love. Fair play, Canada.
Yay, Canada.
The Underground Railroad, as we said, had conductors. Inverted commas.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that. Now, I think I understand. It was basically someone who accompanied the...
Well, as it was with the case with Harriet Tubman, she came back, I think it was, I'll find the figures here somewhere, 7 times and rescued 13 people, or came back 13 times and rescued
13 people. Well, the one I say today said 13.
Yeah, so she came back 7 times.
No, 13 trips. Yeah,
okay, and she rescued people. So she was a conductor. She came back knowing the route and the places that were safe along that route.
Yeah, so
And
she would have
she
accompanied
got
the
people
escape
out.
slaves.
Yeah.
Savage.
Yeah, so she was great. Harriet Tubman was the most famous of conductors, so there were lots of them, but history records her.
What made
as
her
most
so
famous.
famous? That's what I don't-
Because I'll get onto it.
Oh, yeah,
towards
because of
the
what she
end.
done later in
Because
life.
what she did later in life, people
Right.
went,
She became a notable
that's
person.
outstanding.
Yeah, she became a really notable person.
And
yeah.
as a result of that, I said, well, what happened before that? And then they found out and they were like, wow,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's loads of them, but she was the most notable.
And she did have quite a life, didn't she?
She did. Tubman returned to the South a total of 13 times, you're right, and freed many enslaved blacks, and among them were her niece, her brothers and parents.
Yeah, she went back for her family first.
And guided
then
them all
she
to
started
Canada
yeah.
because she distrusted the US, the northern states.
Yeah.
Because everything had just become so dangerous.
Yep.
She would sing specific songs or use bird calls, which is what we were saying at the beginning.
Yeah, with the code and stuff. Yeah.
To say when to go or not go when she was sending messages to the people that she was freeing.
Right, so she kind of go ahead as a scout or whatever, look around, see danger, and then she'd signal back.
Or she would just accompany them and then you guys stay hidden for a second. And she'd go forward.
That's what I mean, yeah. She'd scout like her.
And she'd send the all clear message. And she carried a gun as well.
Oh, okay. So she wasn't afraid to
I'm sure she
get her hands dirty as well.
She
like.
meant business.
Yeah.
William Lloyd Garrison, who was himself an abolitionist, credited Tubman by giving her the nickname Black Moses.
That's right, yes.
So she was leading her people.
Leading her people out of slavery, yeah. Black Moses.
That fact that
that's
she
quite
was
an accolade.
And the amount of people that she freed.
Yeah.
In 1861, when the US Civil War started, which ran from 61 to 65, Harriet worked with the Union Army as a nurse, scout, and also worked as a spy. In 1863, she was assigned to Colonel James Montgomery. She disguised herself as an old woman, moving behind Confederate lines unnoticed. She approached slaves and gave them a chance of freedom, or sometimes she gave them cash in return for information. So where's the big white army that was here a couple of weeks ago?
Where's the blue
they're
coats?
50 miles that way, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
On June the 1st, 1863, alongside Montgomery, she led 300 soldiers to raid a Confederate outpost along the Combahee River. So C-O-M-B-H.
That's right, yeah, she's the first woman.
B-A-H-E-E.
Sorry, first woman in American history to lead a military operation, wasn't she?
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Our very own Countess Markovich would have been inspired, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, if she'd known she'd existed.
So we weren't separated by that much time. I'd imagine there's probably quite a...
Yeah, but I'm talking about information transmission.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I know what you're saying, yeah.
As a result of this attack on this outpost at Combahee River in South Carolina, this led directly to the freeing of about 750 slaves.
Cool.
So she was fantastic.
She got a few out already.
Yeah.
She did.
This made her the first woman in American history to lead a military operation.
Yeah.
She continued with her nurse-cook-spy combo for another year, but was only paid $200 for her entire service in the army.
Yeah, now she did eventually apply for the pension, didn't she?
Yeah, well, we'll get to there.
Okay.
And she wasn't paid all the benefits she was due despite multiple appeals on her behalf to the federal government. Slaves are people too. Unless we owe them anything. And, you know what I mean?
And women slaves at that even worse,
Yeah,
of course, yeah.
It wasn't until 1890 that she received a small pension for being the widow of a war vet.
$20
now she'd remarried from, what was his face?
Ben, wasn't it? No, it wasn't Ben.
No, that was her dad.
Father.
Tubman, I can't remember his first name.
Yeah.
She'd divorced him and she'd remarried.
Right. And he was killed in the war then, her second husband.
Well, her second husband. Yeah. And I think she divorced, or it wasn't a good marriage from her first husband.
Yeah,
now that we talk about it. Because he didn't want to be freed.
Right, okay.
I think it was that, so I'm not sure.
It's very strange that, someone wouldn't want to be freed. But
you know what?
Fear has to use,
if they're institutionalized.
Yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
mentioned Shawshank earlier. Look at Morgan Freeman's character.
The fear
Was
of
it Red,
the
was
unknown.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he
The fear
didn't.
of the unknown.
He was
you know?
terrified of getting out.
Yeah.
Or the other guy that did get out and commit suicide as well.
Brooks.
Remember? Brooks, yeah.
Yeah, great film.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's one of the all-time greatest, isn't it?
Yeah. In 1899, her benefits were increased, but it still didn't make up for what she was due for all the service she'd given.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Of course, yeah.
It would take another 100 years or so for her to get what she was owed.
Right.
In 2002, Congress was again petitioned, and this time it awarded the estate of Harriet Tubman $11,750.
Jesus. Wasn't there something as well, I say, where they produced a commemorative $20 bill with her face on it because that was her pension, was $20 a month?
I'll talk about that bullshit in a second.
Okay, right.
And you'll understand why it's bullshit.
Okay.
After the Civil War, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery and the 14th expanded citizenship. The 15th Amendment, voting rights.
To men.
But not for women.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still fucking, here you go, lads. Okay, no problem. Yeah, but not you.
Yeah. So it still wasn't
bullshit,
her. Yeah. So she still had to fight.
In 1896, Tubman appeared at the founding convention of the National Association of Coloured Women.
Yeah.
Later, at a suffrage meeting
well into her 70s at this stage, is she?
Pardon?
She's supposed to be well into her 70s at this stage.
Yeah, she was getting on.
Yeah.
She was getting on, yeah. She had, well, put it this way, she hadn't done Underground Railroad for a long time.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah.
In 1896, she appeared at the founding convention of the National Association of Coloured Women. Later, at a suffragette meeting in Rochester, New York, she told the audience, this is what you were saying, I was the conductor on the Underground Railroad, and I can say what many others cannot. I never ran my train off the tracks, and I never lost a passenger. So you fucking quote that word for word. He wasn't even looking at it. Okay, Paul wasn't looking at anything. He memorised it earlier on.
That really struck me, yeah.
On that $20 a month she collected in 1879, this is the bullshit I'm talking about.
Right, okay.
In a nice twist of fate, in 2016, the US Treasury announced that her image will adorn a new $20 bill. However, now it was because this girl had seen all these things great women in American history had done.
Right.
And looking at her dad's money as he was counting it, or looking at
all these white men, all these white dead presidents.
She was looking at all
money,
these white guys and going, where are the fucking women? And she wrote to Obama.
Right.
And she was like, where are they? And he wrote her back. The office of the president got back in touch with her and said, that's a fucking good idea. They had a short list of women that they were going to put on a bill, on a whatever dollar bill.
Okay.
And Harriet Tubman was on that list.
Oh.
After Obama initiated, the change mooted for the $20 bill, which would replace Andrew Jackson, who was a slave owner himself.
That's right, yeah.
Andrew Jackson also forcibly relocated Native Americans, which is an entirely different conversation we are going to
have very soon.
Obama initiated the $20 bill transfer of Andrew Jackson to Harriet Tubman.
Right.
Trump put that idea on ice.
Yeah, of course he did.
Trump had a portrait of Andrew Jackson hung in the Oval Office. Fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
I don't know if you listen to our podcast, Donald Trump.
You're a scumbag.
You're a fucking scumbag.
Non-political, this podcast?
Yep. Very non-political. Very opinionated.
There are other political opinions available.
Yeah. Okay. And in the interest of fairness. Fuck me, scumbag. Okay. It had been hoped that Biden's administration would fast-track the Tubman $20 bill, but coming to the end of his first term in office, and we're not even sure if he'll get a second one, there's no sign of life of that.
So it's probably not going to happen.
The whole thing was started in 2014 by a 9-year-old girl, which I said, writing to Obama saying how unfair it was that it was all men when there were so many great women. And him saying, fucking right.
Yeah, but all of those men, they not to be defending the fucking patriarchy or anything, but the common factor of all those men on those bills is they were all presidents. It's not just kind of great men from history sort of thing. It's specifically like US presidents.
No.
That are on the
Isn't
bills.
there a guy, Franklin, I think?
Yeah, fucking.
He's on the...
Yeah, Ben Franklin was president, wasn't he? After Washington.
Have a look at it there.
He
I know
was.
there's one of them, but there's one of them...
The reason they call them
isn't.
dead presidents.
No, there's one of them isn't. So we're going to pause it just so we can check.
Yeah.
After a heated debate, which wasn't actually that heated, we were just fucking Googling it.
Yeah,
What
and it
did we
turns
find
out that Andrew Hamilton and Ben Franklin were never president and are both on the bills.
Yeah.
Hamilton on the $10 bill and Franklin on the $100 bill.
So,
Which is why the likes of 50 Cent and all them called them Benjamins.
Yep.
It's all about the Benjamins.
Yeah. So I was 50% right.
Yeah.
I was 50 cent right.
You were 50 Cent right.
And then the other one,
What
the
a-
other guy is the musical fella.
Is it Andrew Hamilton? Yeah.
I guess it is.
Is he not black?
I don't know.
Black
Or
in the
maybe it's
musical.
not. Maybe to
Is
just
that a
share a second name.
reworking of the musical because he's
Maybe
black in the
just
musical?
share a second name.
And there's
I don't know.
definitely no black people on the yoke. No, Andrew Hamilton, I'm pretty sure that is the musical. I have no idea. I haven't seen the musical. As we've already established, no interest in musicals. And, don't know who he was
No,
or
I'm not a musical
what he was.
person.
But anyway, yeah, there you have it now.
I love music, but I'm not a musicals
Yeah,
person.
I think the only musical that I could say that I genuinely like is Willy Wonka. Technically a musical.
The original one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. No, I'll go with that.
And although having said that, now I do have a couple of vinyls of Andrew Lloyd Webber's kind of Broadway hits or West
Do
End hits.
not like
I
that
do
guy.
like the music.
Like
I
it at
do
all.
like the
No.
music.
Well,
But I'm
different
not into like musical
horses
movies.
for courses and shit.
Yeah, no, by all means, musicals for stage, not for movies. That's kind of my thing, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not
Cats
even
was
a big
awful.
fan of...
Cats was dreadful.
I'm not a big fan of Pixar or Disney's fucking songs in a film.
They have some absolute iconic songs. They have some shy.
Doesn't mean they're good. I don't like them. And
I love Colours of the Wind.
I have
Love
no idea what that's from.
From Pocahontas.
No,
Love that song.
haven't a clue.
Love that song.
Not into them, and I'm not into fashioning an opening in a storyline for a fucking song.
No.
That's what they do.
Yeah, I know.
The fucking.
I'm thinking
what am I
Belle
thinking
and
of?
Beauty and the Beast.
Frozen.
Oh, yeah.
Well, even in Belle.
Yeah, where she's walking through the town and she's singing.
Yeah, there's bullshit. But then there's the ballroom thing where she's dancing with Beast.
Yeah, I love
that makes sense. They're dancing.
Oh, I know what you mean.
That's
and
not
it's
an
there
elbowed.
just for the song. Yeah,
That's not a shoehorned scenario.
where the
You know what I
song
mean?
has just been shoehorned in. I get you now. Where Frozen very much is. Yes,
and that really annoyed me. But
Let it
have
go.
you seen?
Like, why is she singing it?
Have you seen Encanto?
No. Rosie
Those
watches
songs
it.
in that did not annoy me at all.
Yeah, I believe it's a
thought they were
very
great.
good soundtrack. I've
I
heard.
thought they were great. It's not
Let's
something
go
I'd
check
go and
it out.
listen to, but when I was watching it, I was like, "That's."
I'm mad into my movie soundtracks.
No.
Listened to a lot
Hans
of
Zimmer,
soundtracks.
yes, but
Oh,
everything
Zimmer's
else, no.
amazing. James Horner's
So-
my favourite though. Anyway, Jesus, we're gone way off track. Sorry, my
No, you're grand. Don't worry about
dragging
it.
this thing away.
Anyway, this young girl that wrote Obama, she even supplied her own list
Of
of
women.
people that could be and should be represented.
Right, come on, who's on
And
it?
Harriet Tubman was on it. I don't have it, and
Okay,
I
no.
didn't find
Any
where
reference to it?
anybody.
I'd
had
love to know
written
what
it.
that list
But there was
was,
one,
yeah.
and they were saying Harriet Tubman was on it, and
Deadly.
everyone was saying that'd be fantastic. The $20 bill, because that was her wage.
Yeah,
That'd
that
be-
was her pension, yeah.
That'd be lovely. That'd
Yeah.
be really nice
Yeah.
poetry. But
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But of course,
you know,
the orange baboon put a fucking kibosh on that.
yeah. Well, Biden, and I'm not defending Trump because he is, and that's not very
Yeah.
fair on baboons. But the Biden administration hasn't fast tracked it.
No, exactly, yeah. And
I'm sure they've spent a lot of their
Look, do
time
you know what the best
doing-
thing about Joe Biden is?
What?
He's not Donald Trump.
Okay.
It's about the only thing he has going from. Anyway, that's the end of the fucking political discussion.
Until we wander into it next time.
Until we wander in
completely
next time.
opinionated and
I can't wait to
uneducated.
go into Irish politics, man.
Yeah,
I'm telling
wait
you.
to see that.
But
So
anyway,
she
yeah.
supplied her own list. On their list in Obama's administration, apparently Harriet Tubman was represented there too.
Right, and do you have that list? No.
No.
Okay. Dale's not great for the lists.
No,
Not today, anyway.
anyway.
Well, there's something for listeners to go and look up, actually.
Yeah, there you go. Actually, we'll find if we find the list, we'll post it on the Facebook page.
Exactly. We'll put it up in the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's and I'm sure there'll be an article of that young girl's letter to Obama initially in somewhere, 2011 or 12.
Sure, we'll find it somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, 2014. We will post it up on the Facebook site if we find anything. Yeah. The fact that nothing meaningful has been done just points to the nonsense of the bureaucratic
the red tape and the bullshit,
of just political life. All that bullshit. It's a good allegory of
and I mean, something like that is going to take more than 4 years to get through the bureaucracy shit. And it's a model that the next guy coming in is going to get rid of it because, he got rid of everything else Obama did.
Yeah, well, yeah, so is it ever going to happen?
Probably not.
Harriet Tubman died on March the 10th, 1913 at 91.
91, yeah, I was going to say, God, she lives a fair old age.
She lived a grand old age.
Because she was born in the early 1800s, Jesus.
Her final words were, I go away to prepare a place for you.
Yeah.
Which is lovely.
It is lovely, but it's very biblical, isn't it? No, isn't that what Jesus said? Isn't that what Jesus said?
Well, I'm sure she was religious.
I go to prepare a place for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't as profound as...
I didn't even think of that when I read that's what she said, but that must have been what it was.
Yeah, she was quoting the Bible. Yeah. But there you have it.
To finish, and I'm not going to read this, I'm not even going to attempt to, I will post a link up on the Facebook page.
Right.
I found a letter. There's this thing on YouTube where celebrities read, actors or whatever, read letters from somebody to somebody else. Right, it's not from somebody significant to somebody else.
I've seen something similar where they read Donald Trump's tweets. You had like Obama read.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but they come out on stage and they read this letter. So somebody writing a complaint. I saw one.
Oh, I know the thing you're talking.
Somebody writing a complaint to.
It's an English comedian, does it? Is it?
No, they all do it. Like, there's loads of different celebrities.
No, I see one specific guy that does it. He's very funny.
Yeah.
He's very gay, very camp, but he's brilliant when he does this. Like, really good.
I don't know what it is, but Lawrence Fishburne, I saw this.
I love Larry Fishburne.
Lawrence Fishburne read this letter from a former slave master to his former slave.
Okay.
Asking him to come back and work for him.
Right, and be paid,
It's fucking hilarious and it's brilliant. And I'm not telling you anything about it.
I know, you have to read it now. You can't leave us hanging like that.
I haven't got it here.
Ah, shit,
man. And
I
wouldn't read it if I had it here because I'm a white guy.
It's matter. You can't leave us hanging on that.
Beautifully written or read by Lawrence Fishburne. It's glorious.
Okay, we'll go and find a video of it and we'll pop it up on the Facebook page.
I'll pop it up on Facebook. Yeah. And I'll put it up on Facebook as this drops. Right. So at the same time.
At the same time as this drops. So you can go, when you're listening to this now, you can go to our Facebook page and find it immediately.
It's glorious.
Because Dale's leaving us hanging here.
So
that's just not good.
It is so good. And you'll understand when you watch it.
Oh, I know. I do. I get it. Like, you'd have to be black to get it.
It's fantastic.
No, I understand what you're saying, yeah.
So, after fucking going through a really heavy subject like slavery.
That was tough going today, Dale. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, I feel like I've left it a little better than when I went in.
Bit of a lighter finish.
Yeah.
Definitely, which is good.
And not that it's more jovial. It's still a horrible fucking thing.
It is. And I really struggled with that one today.
Harriet Tubman was fantastic. Should be revered and honoured.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she should be put in the $20 note.
Definitely.
Stop acting the ball.
Come on, Joe. Get the fucking shit together.
Yeah. Okay.
Get that done.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Thanks for listening.
See you later.